Hurricane Erin continues to move west of the official forecast track, putting more of the eastern seaboard at risk for wind and rain. But that's not all. Additional tropical activity is lurking out in the Atlantic, and it's headed this way. And is August about to be dismissed early? Well, we're going to get into all of that, plus test your weather IQ, but we're going to start with Hurricane Erin and its increasing impact potential as we begin with our tropical update. Welcome into the channel. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Jason. I've been tracking weather for over 40 years, and as you know and as I know, tropical systems are notoriously tricky at times, and this is one of those times. Erin has continued to tick west of guidance, and it has become such a big system with wide-ranging impacts that it now puts parts of the U.S. coast in play for strong winds and potentially rain as well, but certainly coastal flooding is going to be a major issue in rip currents too. The system itself is not looking all that healthy this morning. Why is that? I bet you can hazard a guess, but I'm going to show you. In any event, it is now down to a Category 2 storm, 110 miles per hour, and it is moving to the northwest at 7. It is crawling. It was going 22 the other day. Now it's at 7 miles per hour, which is a good thing in some ways if you are looking for weakening. Now look here. This is the water vapor imagery, and you see this big yellow blob here? Tropical cyclones don't like yellow blobs, folks. That is dry air working into the core, and that has caused this thing to get a little bit ragged. It's one of the causes. There's another problem going on here too, but it's not looking all that great. Dry air has come in. Eventually it'll work this dry air out and moisten back up, but right now that is a problem. The other problem that we're seeing here, look at this. This is wind shear, okay? This is what's going on. Now, you got some good outflow here on the northeast side and down here into the southern zones and down here to the southwest, but look what's going on here. These arrows, they're pointing in toward the system. That is impeding outflow in the northwest channel, and strong hurricanes, or if a hurricane wants to get strong, it needs good outflow in all directions, and it is being impacted by shear. As we go on out in the next couple of days, we get out tomorrow, you have a little bit of a better shear environment. Look, you got arrows going away now up here, and you know, somewhat down here too, but you got a little bit of shear maybe affecting it in the southeast quadrant, but things look to get a little bit better there. Plus, it's going to head over water temperatures as well that are going to be stronger. Here's the moisture. Look at this. You can see this very, very well showing up on the model. This side, plenty of moisture. This side, plenty of dry air. And so this has to be worked out if this thing is to strengthen. Again, most models keep it in the Category 2, maybe Category 3 status. We don't see those Category 4 projections anymore, and it's largely due to this. Now, we're going to go here and take a look at the official track and see what's going on. This is Zoom Earth, and we're going to zoom in a little bit here. There are the Turks and Caicos under tropical storm warnings. We're seeing a feeder band come through there, bring you some strong, gusty, squally weather with heavy rain. Bahamas, parts of the Bahamas under tropical storm watch. As we go on up here, there's Erin. There's where it's come from. See, it's kind of meandered around. There's the forecast cone. And again, the center of circulation, where it passes, is not irrelevant, but because the storm has gotten so big, even small deviations in the track can bring big impacts in along the coast. And we're seeing tropical storm watches now up. There's been evacuation orders down here. There's even been people who have died already getting caught in rip currents. I think there were been a couple of, there were like 50 rescues out around Wrightsville Beach, people trying to get out in the water and swim and surf. Don't do that, folks. You're putting strain on emergency resources, and it's just needless. You don't need to die to go surfing in a big hurricane like this. The ocean is really disturbed with such a wide, such a strong hurricane, wide-ranging impacts. But there it is. There's the official forecast track. There is a possibility that this thing continues to track west, which would put areas farther north up here from Cape Hatteras into New England toward Nova Scotia under the gun for some strong winds. You're certainly going to see big waves and coastal erosion. We've already looked at that map, and we've already looked at that map. Let's go to this map here. This is the forecast projection for the models. Most keep it into the Category 3 status, eventually down into Category 2. There's the possibility this thing just continues to diminish in strength, which would be really, really good news. But again, the wind field is very, very, very large. Here's the European ensemble. The last 6 runs you can see, or the European model operational, you see it's tracked west, 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 west. continues to do that. And as long as that happens, you're going to see more impacts come in, especially along the coast of North Carolina where it sticks out into the Atlantic. And we're talking about tropical storm force winds potentially. All of the models continue to recurve it, and that's what's going to happen. But the closer it gets to the coast, the more of those impacts come in. And there are the temperatures. Look at that. Nice little ribbon here of upper 80s to close to 90 degrees, and as it tracks through that, there is the potential for it to make use of some of that water. Right now, though, it's moving slowly. It's upwelling the water. You can see this here on the map. There it sits down here just right north of the Turks and Caicos, and look what happens as it goes through the browns, which are the warm waters. It leaves a trail of cool water in its wake. So big, it's disturbing and upwelling this water. The water's coming up from underneath. It's cooler than the surface water, so the slower it goes, the more it will upwell this water and be a detriment to itself. So, that's what we're rooting for there, folks. Here is the wave action. Let me get the particles off here, the streamline, so we can see this. But look, big wave action out here in the Atlantic. We're talking, 10 to 20 foot seas right out here off the coast. The Bahamas are getting pounded as we go on out in time. 24-foot seas right out there. So we're going out toward Thursday morning. That's where it's going to be as we get on into overnight Wednesday, 12 a.m. Thursday, off the coast of, say, Charleston, somewhere in there. But you've got big seas out here all up and down the Atlantic coast. This is just pounding. We get on into Friday. It's finally starting that northeast turn, but big wave action is just coming into the coast, folks. We're going to see rip currents. We're going to see coastal erosion. Got a friend that's got a house that's kind of already teetering. The tide comes in. It's already underwater. This thing could fall into the ocean. We're going to see some houses lost. This is going to be a big problem for beaches up and down the East Coast. The thing is crawling, taking all week to get out of here. Finally, by Saturday and Sunday, it starts to head on off. But look at the wave action in its wake. And there is the wind action, folks. And here it comes. We'll put this on into motion. Bahamas are getting kind of pounded this morning with some tropical storm force wind gusts. We get on in toward Wednesday at 11 p.m. Thursday, let's go back a little bit. There's kind of where it's impacting North Carolina and Virginia Beach and the Delmarva. These gusts up here, these are projected gusts into the 30s, maybe even 40 miles per hour along the coast here, folks. So this has gotten, as the wind field's expanded and this thing's tracked a little bit to the west, some of you folks up in the mid-Atlantic and New England could experience some tropical storm force wind gusts. Don't panic, though. No sign of this thing trending in and making landfall in any of those areas. We're not talking about that, but the wind field is large, as I've said over and over. You have to pay attention for that. Surge is a problem as well. Look at this. We're going to see 4-foot surge out here around Cape Hatteras from Duck to Cape Lookout, and then from Paramore Island all the way down to the South Santee River, we could see 1 to 3-foot surge. So got a lot of issues here with storm surge too, just, not the major surge. If it were having landfall, we are lucking out big time. Rip currents today. High risk up and down the eastern seaboard. Stay out of the water and don't strain resources. And then tomorrow, same again as this thing moves on up. So that's your update on Hurricane Erin. There's some other stuff going on out in the tropics. We're going to look at that, but we've got to test your weather IQ. And I've got a hard question for you today. I hope you're up for it, but here it comes. While we've got tropical action out in the Atlantic, folks, it seems prudent to continue along with our tropical question series. If you haven't yet subscribed, though, please consider subscribing to the channel. We've had a lot of growth, and I really appreciate all of that and all of the support. Continue to like the content if you like it, and leave a comment in the comment section, something I can pray about. Please put it in there, and continue to pray for me, too. I pray for you generically every day. If you're watching from the Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas, if you're seeing anything, let me know. If you're concerned about anything, I read all the comments. If you've been on the channel, you know that I respond to them. So let me know what's going on, where you are, turn those notifications on, and do these videos every day. And I guess with that, here's the question. It might be a little bit of a harder one today, but here it is. What is the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin by wind speed? And here are your choices: Wilma, Allen, Camille, or Katrina. If you know the answer, type it in the comment section. If you don't know it, hang out to the end of the show and I'll let you know exactly what it is. But right now, we're going to see what else is lurking out in the Atlantic. All right, my friends, here's Hurricane Erin. There it is. Pressure is up to 958 millibars. The next item up for bids is a strong tropical wave in the central Atlantic with a 60% chance of development over the next several days in this orange cone here. And that is probably not going to take than 7 days to develop. It'll probably happen sooner than that. And then behind that is another strong tropical wave with a 30% chance of formation. I've got all this text in a crawler going along the bottom of the screen, so you can keep up with it down there if you want to read what the text is saying. That is a service I provide to you here on Cold Rain's Weather World. There is the GFS, or I'm sorry, this is the European. All these letters up here, that's the European model operational. And we're going to run this forward and see what happens with those next waves. There goes Erin out to sea, and here comes the next wave. You can barely see it right here. There's one contour around it. The European is not very excited or enthusiastic about this wave. The next one goes on into the south. There it goes to the east of Bermuda and never really does anything. When you get way on out here, you've got this big front that sits off the coast, and the European starts to develop along it. Not going to affect the United States other than to bring maybe some coastal erosion, more coastal erosion. And that's it through the end of the run, really, for the European model. The GFS is quite similar. There goes Erin out to sea. The next one comes along, and look what it does down here. It gets to the islands. The GFS starts to develop it a little bit more. It's actually got a little homegrown activity sooner than the European, but there it goes, takes a similar track to Erin. This one goes west of Bermuda, and it actually starts to strengthen it a bit. And then toward the end of the run, it takes that second tropical wave and sends it down the low road into the Gulf and hits Texas with a major hurricane. That solution is on the table, but don't panic about it being 2 weeks out. Let's just watch it and see what happens. Here is the European ensemble, and we have quite a few members here. You see the batch of L's down here. These are all the ensemble members that are showing development, and they are pretty enthusiastic about some level of development. Some of them get a little stronger than others, but they all curve it near and in and around Bermuda with nothing going into the United States. So the European ensemble is not seeing a hit from the next wave. What about the GFS ensemble? Well, there it is. It's got two areas here, one to the west, one back to the east. There it comes. And you get a recurve, a couple of stragglers going close to the U.S., but we've seen this solution change from many going into the U.S. now to most missing the U.S., so that is good news. And then you get the next batch coming in and sort of dispersion after that. So that's what's happening with all of the models, folks. We're really not seeing a big signal for another wave coming in and striking the U.S. Now that's, 10 days out or so. A lot can change. We got to watch, as you see with Erin. I mean, things change, in a moment's notice. So we've got to keep our eyes on it. And I will keep you posted. There's Erin out here. This is the satellite in the tropical Atlantic. You're going to zoom this out a little bit. There is tropical wave number 1. Looks pretty good, right? Little disorganized, but of course it's a tropical wave. It should be disorganized. There's the second one, and we've got another piece of energy moving off of Africa there, and that's what's going on. Then you get a little bit of a break, and then way back over Africa, there's some more waves back here. There is a likelihood, folks, that we get into a pattern over the next, after we get about 5 or 10 days out, we maybe have a week or so, maybe 2, where we don't have a lot of activity, but then things circle back around again and we start to get better conditions out in the Atlantic. So we're going to watch that. We might have a little bit of a break here before things crank back up again. But here's what's going on. We go out to into the weekend. This is the weekend. This is Saturday. This is our mid-level height map. We look at this every day because it governs the steering in the Atlantic and across the continent as well. There's your big ridge here, but look at this. Then you get your ridge. Systems are going to track beneath this ridge. But look at this big thing blasting out of Canada, folks. This is an Arctic invasion in the summertime. Actually, not an Arctic invasion in terms of Arctic temperatures, but it's coming out of Canada and some of the northern regions. This is anomalously cold air along and ahead of this. When you see a trough like this, there ain't no way a system in this area is getting close to the United States. So if this is true, and all of the models and ensembles are saying that it is, you can kiss any tropical threat coming in north of the islands goodbye for a while. Now, the Gulf is a different story. We sneak something in there, we've got to watch that for sure. But that's what's going on out in the tropics. Now we're going to tell you exactly what that thing is on the screen and where it's coming from and where it's going to. All right, looking out over the course of time across the lower 48, got a little bit of a severe threat today. Marginal risk up here from Cleveland down to Indianapolis through basically Joplin and Union City, Little Rock, and Tulsa, looking at some Potential for isolated severe weather also up here in northern and western Montana. No real tornado threat. Wind is the main threat. We've got a cold front coming through, a little piece of energy moving through. Going to see some showers and thunderstorms, bringing rounds of heavy rain as well, but nothing all that big to write home about in terms of severe weather, which is very, very good. We've seen a lot of severe weather lately, folks, and not looking at all that much in the way of severe weather, but some isolated reports not out of the question in those areas. This is the temperature anomaly about a mile up, folks, and that's a good proxy for what we can expect out here at the surface. I just show a mile up or so that it smooths out the variations. You don't get the night and day jumps around and things look a little bit smoother. But look at this. As we go on out through the end of the week, a little bit cooler in the plains, a little cool batch moving in here into Western Canada, keep you guys cool across the northern tier. But look at this, Friday and then Saturday. What is this? Saturday and Sunday, look at this big blue and purple blob coming in out of Canada. This is well below normal temperatures, folks. It is coming. Fall is coming, and it's coming big. It's coming fast. It is going to dismiss August in the east early this year, and those cool anomalies in the southeast will not be reversed by the time the end of the month rolls around. Look at this. It expands across much of the nation with the exception of South Texas and the Pacific Northwest. As we get into mid next week, we're going to bring drier air down with it, and it just hangs on. You get another system pushing in from the northeast. The European is gung-ho, all guns blazing with fall-like temperatures. The GFS is much the same. The European ensemble and the GFS ensemble and the Canadian ensemble is much the same. So don't rely on one run, but when you got that kind of agreement, folks, going to be feeling good as we work in late into the weekend and next week as well. This is the height pattern. There goes Erin through the course of the week, Friday, Saturday. Look at this big ridge building out west. You see this big ridge out here? Look at this, all the way up into Canada. You got another ridge poking into Alaska like that. Another blocking area. So you get this big ridge kind of over the top block. That's going to lock this in for a time period. If that comes to fruition. We've seen these blocks in the wintertime. I'm banging a drum on a big snowstorm pattern if we see something like this set up, folks. Look at this big ridge, and there's that trough sitting here. This will deflect. Anything comes in here is back out to sea. Tropical systems, goodbye if you come in and try to invade the United States with a big trough like that. You ain't getting through. There you go. Ridge along the west coast poking way up into Canada, sending streamlines out of the northwest, feeding in cooler than normal conditions into the east, way out in time. That thing kind of goes flat as everything kind of trends back, but that's what's going on. If we take a look at September, these are the temperature anomalies for the month of September. Boy, wouldn't that be nice to have finally a cool September in the east? It always gets hot in the east, it seems like lately in September, but the CFS is showing hot out west. Now, this could change, but this is a monthly climate model. There, the precipitation anomalies continues to stay wet in the southeast and some portions of the interior northeast, dry in the central portion of the country, and wet in the northeast. And you need rain out in the south, west, and west, really, and in the northeast too. Florida needs some rain, and they're looking to maybe have an above normal rainfall bout as we get on into September. That's hopeful, folks. We're hopeful for that. There are your dew points. We roll this way out. This is about 8 days, 9 days out, something like that. We're in the 9-day out range. Dew points in the 50s. Look at this. Boy, wouldn't that feel good? It's been humid. Even though it's been a little cooler, it's still been humid, but these dew points are coming in. They're going to crash down into the United States. And here's the precipitation pattern. This is 24-hour increments as we go out in time. You can see that cold front slipping through with the showers and thunderstorms along it over the course of today and tomorrow. Some scattered showers around the southeast. Get a big batch of rain coming in here with a low pressure through New England. Erin turns up. Erin, sometimes people say, you say Erin. I'm saying it's just my southern drawl. It's Erin. And there it goes, bringing some precipitation along the coast, maybe getting some rain bands and showery activity back into New England or the mid-Atlantic. But that cold front will press through. Another cold front comes in. This is the one that's bringing the Arctic temperatures, the cooler temperatures, the fall-like temperatures we get later in the week. And this cold front will stall across the southeast, making a potential for a tropical disturbance development off the southeast coast. We'll watch that, but no big signal for it. And there comes the cold front in, bringing showers through the Midwest, and there's your total precipitation over the next 7 days. The biggest threat for precipitation is in the northern sections of the interior northeast and back here into the southeast as well. A little blob showing up in the plains too, but this won't be a washout over 7 days. You'll just see that cold front, and some of it will stall down here in the southeast. We'll see the biggest threat for rain. Okay, that's your forecast. We're going to look at a quick solar update, space weather and geological update. Not much going on there. And we're going to wrap up with an answer to today's IQ question and a fun historical fact too. Uh-oh, the sun is green. Actually, this is a filter, folks. It shows solar flaring pretty well, and you can see a sunspot cluster coming in around the horn here. This is on the limb that's incoming. It rotates this way toward, here, let's draw it. And that way you can see it. It rotates around this way, okay? That's what's going on. Nothing going on in the center disk that would affect Earth, but we've got a couple of sunspots rotating toward us, and they are active. M-class solar flare came out of that. There's all of the different filters, but here is the disk, a couple of sunspots toward us, nothing, all that complex. Here comes the next one, and another one's coming up around the limb. So we're going to watch that. Nothing going on the earthquake front, completely blank this morning. New moon is August the 23rd. We are 15.5%. It's a waning crescent, and that is what is going on with space and the Earth, folks, and it brings us all the way into the answer to today's question. And the question was, what is the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic basin by wind speed? Wilma, Allen, Camille, and Katrina are your choices, and the answer is Hurricane Allen, way back in 1980, had a top wind speed of 190 miles per hour. The closest that anyone has gotten to approach that is 185 miles per hour. Wilma did it. Dorian did it. A couple others did it too. But Allen holds the record, takes the blue ribbon at 190 miles per hour. Now you know the weather. One more thing that's interesting to note as well, and there, by the way, is your day and night world map. We are in the full sun right now. But one more thing that's interesting to note is that in 2004, Google went public. They launched their IPO. And it was a major milestone for the company as it transitioned from a private entity to a publicly traded company. The IPO price was $85 per share. It is now trading at $204 per share, and it has split twice over that time period. Now you know about stocks. Now you know about the weather. And as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you the weather runs 24/7, but we got you covered right here, right now, 4814. I hope you have a wonderful day and hope to see you back tomorrow. Have another show in the morning. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.